Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Touched and Empowered. Welcome to our fun podcast where we share our life experiences, how we overcame adversities, the things that happen in our lives that are very fascinating and peculiar. And hopefully it brings a smile to your face, as well as some self-empowerment from the tips that we share. So with that being said,
how not to be cookie cutter.
yeah. So we were talking about prior to hopping on today, how not to be cookie cutter, which is what Katie deems as.
That's the term that I remember being told around the corporate world office in reference to the other phrase was putting a square peg in a round hole, trying to be nudged into a job or a task that was not my lane of expertise.
Yeah. And what that process was like.
Well, that process was, unfortunately, at that moment in time, shut up and suck it up because I needed the job. Since then, I have learned that if I'm not the expert, I can refer you to an expert for what it is that you are trying to get done. Realizing that I don't have to be everything for everyone in my job has made life so much easier. And in fact, I now apply that to my life outside of work as well. Because the only person I can be there for 100% of the time is myself.
Wise wisdom, Katie.
Yeah, my wisdom hat is very short today. So that's the extent of my wisdom. I'm done. I'm good.
It's concise. It's perfect. Nothing else to say there. Yeah. And it's so funny that you're mentioning corporations and like what cookie cutter really means, because I don't know, Katie, do you take me for cookie cutter?
Well, based on the wide variety of expertise that you have, because you have done a lot and you have accomplished a lot and you have done some really fantastic and amazing things, I can see the potential of someone wanting to take you and be like, I want to clone you. So I can see you being the mold for a cookie cutter because people want more aces around. But I can also see where someone could assume to where you're an expert in all of this stuff. You'd be an expert in everything.
Yeah. Let's thank you. So I think when it comes to like my pet peeve is when people assume things about me instead of asking.
Right.
Which I understand, we're human, mistakes happen, it's fine, compassion, right? Like based off of what we've been programmed through media and entertainment or whatnot, right? What I look like associates with something that could be what they envision of me to do, right?
No.
And
That was, I'm going to call you out. That was very vague and lofty. That was not what you were talking about before we started recording.
Oh, what do you mean?
You had made the comment that someone was trying to push you into a management position.
Yeah, that was what they thought of me. They saw that and put me there.
Right, but that's not what you were just talking. What you were talking about didn't sound like that's what you were referring to.
Oh, I was referring to that.
Okay.
Did I correctly?
I don't know. It could have just been the way how I interpreted it.
Ah, yes. Case in point. Katie, yeah, well,
I make a good example, yes.
So you have a different perception of me, Katie. We've worked together for 2 years. You've seen the gambit of what I can do.
I have not seen you in the corporate world, but yes, I do know that you have that kind of experience.
Thank you. So when we think about when I'm talking about people who just meet me,
Okay. First
five,
impressions.
first impressions, 5'2". It takes a good while for people to kind of get it. Because like it takes forever to learn somebody. The people are onions. They have depths. They're different. There are certain things that they have a tendency of liking, not liking, and of course we change. We're human.
Right.
Yes, that variable changes always. But I think it's fascinating when, let's say, somebody was like, I got this manager position, it'd be great for you. You need X, Y, and Z, and this will be good. And I went, I'm not a good manager. Sorry. I'm good at being a leader, and I'm very good at taking care of people and understanding how to work with people that are managers, right?
Right.
But as somebody in that position, in that job per se, not my strong suit. And that's actually where I would breed the most resentment because it's not my natural gift.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And as
I
a
know.
human, across the board, we're all like that.
True. And there are some of us that are fantastic. And I do think that there is a difference between a manager and a leader, just like there's a difference between a leader and a boss. You know, I've seen some really good videos about the difference between leader and boss lately. So that's where that came from. And I can think back over decades of experience and can point out which managers were good and which managers weren't. And it wasn't that they were bad because they did the job wrong. It was just not their strongest communication was not their strongest skill set, and people communicate person to person was not their strongest skill set, I think.
And
There,
foresight.
yeah, and I do think that managers, depending on the business, need like the manager of a grocery store. There are a lot of similar skill sets that they would need to a manager in a corporate office, but there's also different types of skills that they need as well because there's different tasks that need to be done and different people to manage.
Yeah. And there's an eye for it. When you're a manager, you're looking out for all the resources necessary to make sure that the people that you're managing or whatever you're managing
Mm-hmm.
runs, they move, dog and back. You know what I mean? She manages. like like you need to make sure their insurance is in place, food, whatever. Like basically what you're doing as a manager is making sure, and this is also a leadership skill as well, but managers make sure that their people are utilizing the resources around them so that they can perform to the best of their ability. Leaders, on the other hand, they're more of like an energy. They're more of like a charisma, a realignment, more of an oversight. If something doesn't, if something isn't moving in the right direction, they can redirect. Right, puppy? Look how big she's getting. Good girl, I love you.
And she attacks you from behind.
Yeah, she's like, I love you. I'm like, you're getting big. I love you.
So there's lots of components that I think. So like I said before, I can see where someone would want you to be a manager to inspire the people that you manage, even though that's not the right position for you to be in to inspire people.
Agreed. I could do that on a on a basic level, but for something full time, and that's supposed to be a natural thing, pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
I can't do that 24/7.
Well,
You see that?
agreed. And there are times where I think us realizing those areas of expertise and those areas where we have limitations we have to know that about ourselves to not only apply for the next best position or job for us, but also to be able to say no thank you to one that is not a good fit. And I think that's harder.
That's very hard, especially in a day and age where you can be multifaceted. But if you continue to be a yes person, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're a yes person, it's the best way to learn what's not a yes anymore. Um,
True.
but when you're very self-aware of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how you are best in position for a team, that's actually more important. Like, for instance, like I said, I'm better as a leader, inspirer, creator, perfectly fine with that, and I'm very good at oversight. Like, I can see something and go, wait a minute, you're missing an L. That could be an issue everywhere. That I can do. And then I think, Katie, you've seen me drive production, be able to see the
Right.
oversight, understand what the goals are, get from A, Y, Z, see where the little nooks and crannies of something, where I need to come in and or where I can defer to somebody to come in to make sure everything is aligned for our goals to be accomplished. Great.
Yeah,
Your insurance? I don't know about that.
yeah, it's one of those. I can see it both sides because I can see you in a manager role if it is managing the right team of people on a project and you have more of the 50,000 foot view versus the 5,000 foot view. So I can see that kind of management. But if it's a management position of a 5,000 foot view and you're overseeing the people doing all the work, I think that you would be stifled, might be the right word. You wouldn't have the room for all the creativity that you do.
I like the word stifled. I was gonna say strangled, but stifled is great. That's more,
Stifled, I don't think is as harsh as strangled.
that's a great word,
That is
stifled.
a great word. And again, it falls under that previous conversation that we had eons ago about the words that we choose. You know, both of those have very constricted strangling, both constricted feelings. Um,
Just being honest about how I
just
would
being
feel.
honest about how you would feel. And I appreciate you being honest about how you feel because that does make it, it's really important to be clear on where we are, what we want to do, what we don't want to do, and being okay with saying no, thank you.
And don't get me wrong, as somebody who's understood, as you're leading a organization of sorts, you do need to have those check-ins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's talk to people. Let's see what's
Right.
going on and get like the honest feedback so that we understand how to manage correctly. Like quarterly check-ins are always a good way to check how management and what management is going and what leadership can provide so that management can do their best of their ability as well.
Right.
Different levels. So let me give you an example because I know that was like really fluffy. Um, so managers, right? They're making sure that their team is running, they're doing well, and everyone is like has what they need to do what they need to do. Um, what managers should be doing is taking notes as to feedback so that, let's say, the managers need something like they need, for instance, there's low morale within our department,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of that, I think it would be necessary to bring in a speaker so that production would increase. The leaders should be able to come in, either speak or find a keynote speaker to bring into the department. That's kind of how that works, right? So the managers make sure that the people that are employed in a company
Yeah.
are satisfied, workload's great. If they have a glass door review, they don't kill the company, stuff like that. And then when the managers are struggling, that's when they should be going to the leaders, the founders, the CEOs of the company to share, hey, these are our concerns. I know that you have the macro oversight of what's happening. This might have an issue with that macro oversight of what you're seeing.
Right.
If that is the case, there should be a resolution. How can we work together to create that resolution so that everyone among the chain of command is happy?
That sounds like something that needs to go on a poster for every single corporate office that I've ever worked at.
Yes. So I know, and I know that.
Like, don't get me wrong. I do love the fact that I worked for some of these amazing companies, but there are times that right hand doesn't know what left hand's doing. Corporate doesn't know what's going on at the ground floor. So I don't know how we got on the topic of corporate hierarchy, but it seems like it fits in pretty well with trying to fit into a space that may or may not play to your strengths.
Yeah. So the reason why I have this knowledge, which I know is like that should be everywhere. I agree. That's why most of the companies that have been running for over 100 years and are being flexible to these new waves of culture in their companies, this is what they do. Google
Right.
does this. Let's see, Snapchat did it once upon a time when it was running. When I was at the macro lens of Comcast, NBC Universal, like I was working very more of like a clerkship and more of like a shadow type of thing,
Right.
where I was working with two of the chairmen of NBC Universal. And I got to see where the nooks and crannies could be and how this would be a really important thing. And what was amazing about, those larger executives, a lot of people find it, air quotes, larger, right?
Right.
People tend to think that these executives are arrogant and not willing to listen.
Right.
And that's so not the case.
Right.
From a macro lens of understanding that not everyone really gets that title and they don't understand the function, which I find interesting. The reason why is because everyone's so like excited for the promotion, for the name, the title, which is actually a way to really kill corporate culture. Those larger executives, yes, they want feedback. Like if they sit in an elevator and you pitch them an idea that makes sense, that will help the company, they're very open to that. Uh, Being open to that feedback and understanding from a bird's eye view. The reason why leaders get to where they are isn't because they're jerks.
True. They do listen, they do ask for feedback. And I think really good leaders and really good managers for that aspect are very open and are very appreciative of getting feedback. It's the fear that we have of speaking up to our managers that I think gets in the way sometimes.
Right. And another thing is like there's a difference between disrespecting somebody that has assets
Right.
and power, air quotes power, everyone has power. But like disrespecting somebody versus sharing your point in a way that is honest, that still respects people,
Right.
right? I think it's just really important that like if you're giving feedback and you're able to communicate in a way that's like, hey, so out of full respect for your company, this is the challenges that I'm seeing. If you do X, Y, and Z, and I'm very confident that this is true, then you will see a higher rate of production within your company.
Right.
Or you can save $4 million per thing, or you can per thing that you develop, you can save 15 cents and you have over 50 million things in production. 15 cents every 15 cents for 50 million things. That's a big chunk of change, right?
Yes, that is a big chunk of change.
Yeah. So it's like, it's that. So in approaching leaders of that caliber, I never, I have done this. I don't follow leaders that won't do that. Like, I don't follow leaders that will not listen to somebody based off of the challenges that they're facing within the company. Because, air quotes, they're not important enough to speak to. I'm not that type of person.
Right.
Fun fact. But, and I've seen a bunch of people do this, and I have worked for them. I didn't work for them for long.
But again, that falls under the category as to knowing when to speak up, when to be confident enough to speak up, and knowing the lane of genius. Is this something that I can speak with some kind of authority because I know ABC? Or is this something that I am just repeating what I heard somebody else say with not having a full understanding instead of saying, hey, boss, go talk to them?
Yeah. And I've been put in the box of people don't think I'll speak up before.
Well, it's because you're pocket size.
I also was very nice.
Yes.
I still am very nice.
Yes, you are still very nice. And you are still pocket size. Pocket size is fun. And I think it's I think it's just one of those things that everyone assumes. And just take it with a grain of salt. Because no one, people are making snap decisions based on what they see, what they hear, and they don't know the full story. They don't know everything that we are capable of.
Oh yeah, we're all little icebergs.
Yeah.
When I say little, I mean big. Like, you see the surface until, like, so for instance, I remember I was given a specific title at a company once, and people didn't know why, because I was the same age as my peers. I was like 24. They had no idea why, no clue. They were like, how? What? No way. And then they would see me perform and they're like, okay,
Now I get it.
now I get it.
Right.
And it comes from a different understanding. Sometimes it's like, with that knowledge base, but also that strength to communicate what needs to happen. I also saved that company so much money.
So the lesson for this episode, as you disappear again, what is up with this, Ace?
I'm sorry. I'm back. I apologize.
Okay, well, fine. Now you can do the lesson of this podcast because I've tried twice and both times you walked away.
The lesson of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, is Ace has ADD. And and basically, you never know what somebody's gifts are until you see them perform, right?
Right.
So it's better to ask than assume that somebody will fit a specific position when they would be best suited in the most amazing way somewhere else.
I agree. So on that note, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Touched Empowered. I am Katie, this is Ace, and midnight was barking in the background, and we hope you've enjoyed this off-the-wall, non-cookie cutter episode.
Woohoo! And bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.